Alright, welcome. If you're new to the channel, my name is Elliott. You're watching Rickety Ski Reviews. Today, we're going to talk about something that gets covered a lot. We're going to talk about the one ski quiver versus the multi-ski quiver. There are a lot of YouTube channels out there that talk about a ski being a one ski quiver. Oh, this ski would be a great one ski quiver. What does that mean? For anyone wondering, the one ski quiver is basically the myth that you can have one ski that will cover you for all conditions. Now, the way that I use it typically is that you could use it for most things. You might be able to go on the powder, but it's not going to be that great. You might be able to go on the groomers, it's okay. I like to use skis when I say a one ski quiver as it's pretty good for most days on these set of conditions. But the caveat there being that it depends on where you are, where you're located, because snow conditions change based on where you're located. In the US, the Pacific Northwest is very different from like the western states like Idaho and Utah that are on the coastline, and then that's hugely different from the Midwest, and then that's much different from the East Coast. So we'll jump into that, but we're gonna talk about the one ski quiver versus the multi-ski quiver, and we're gonna react to a video that was sent to me by one of our subscribers, Dominic. Dominic, thank you for sending me this video. This is a video by the Ski Monster on one ski quiver versus multi-ski quiver. Now, this is my first time watching the Ski Monster videos. I've never heard of them before. Let's see what they have to say. And here we go.
Hey guys, George of the Ski Monster, and today we're going to be talking about having a one ski quiver versus a multi-ski quiver. Most people out there just want to have one pair of skis. So if you're going to have one pair of skis, it's really kind of referred to as, an all mountain, all condition, super versatile ski, right? So to understand how a manufacturer really does that, we need to explain each end of the spectrum, right? So there's two ways that you move skis. When you're on a groomer, you're really rolling a ski edge to edge, which is what a ski like this, basically a race ski, is built to do. On the
George, no, that is not the only thing that happens when you're changing a ski. On straight skis, that's what you would do. Beginner to intermediate, that is what you might do. You turn a ski by flexing your boot, creating a lever, then that changes the shape of the ski. It makes it so that the hourglass connects at the base and the tip, and suddenly now you have an arc. That's called carving. That's why they're called shaped skis, because they're shaped that way so that when you flex them, all the contact points make it into kind of a C shape. I mean, there is ankle flex that kind of allows you to initiate turns, but that is not how you turn a ski. This is the most basic thing, and it already is telling me red flag after red flag. That is not how you turn a ski. Maybe simplifying it for the audience, but oh my God. And especially you're going to talk about like, that's how they do it with race skis. That is not at all how they do it with race skis. There is constant pressure on your boot. There's a reason those boots are so tight, because you are constantly putting flex on the ski and changing its shape based on what kind of turn you're gonna make. You put less flex for less of a turn, you put more flex for more of a turn. The sharper the turn, the more across the hill you go, then you lose speed, but depending on the line of the race course, you may need to do that. But maybe he is just trying to give a simplified version, but it is a very, very misguided illustration of how you turn a ski. Come on, you got the fancy studio, you got all this stuff going on in the background, you got, $5 grand worth of skis behind you. I'm in a playground. But it doesn't matter because I know what I'm talking about. Okay.
The other end of the spectrum, you have a powder ski, like this Bent 120. Bunch of rocker in the tip, into the tail, contact points close to the feet, which makes the ski better at pivoting. It's really always kind of a give and take. When you make a ski better at this, you lose some of this. Like this.
That isn't what you lose. Am I gonna have to explain all of this the whole way through? This is gonna be a really long video. Okay. What you're losing with a powder ski like that is you have a lot of width, so it can be a lot of time from edge to edge like he's talking about. So that can be true if you're skiing in the woods. Like skiing in the woods, a wider ski can take a little bit more time. That's true if you're not actually carving. But what you're also losing is how much flex you have, how much torsional rigidity you have for chatter, or if you're in the Pacific Northwest, you're not gonna be able to cut through crud as well. What you're really losing when it comes to carving is how much you can flex the ski. Those skis are meant to be light. They're meant to float on top of the powder. So what do? They cut back on weight. And how do they cut back on weight? Well, they're not made with Titanol typically. They're doing anything they kind of can for those powder specific skis like the bent to make them light. So when you flex them, you can flex them and load them, but they can only hold so much energy when they spring back. In the bent's case, they don't really spring back. They kind of load and they only give you about half of your energy back. That's why they're not very good carving skis, but it's not because of the edge to edge width. That's only relevant really for like little slarv turns in the trees. In carving, the material matters, the stiffness matters. There's a reason Ski Essentials talks about what the skis are made out of, because how much energy a ski can hold, that's what matters with carving. Oh my God. He's not wrong if you're talking about the trees, like edge to edge width can slow down your turn time, but he's not. He's comparing race skis. So, all right, let's keep going, I guess.
Race ski here, this cannot pivot to save its life. It is built to do this motion here. So
no, race skis can stivot. Have you ever seen like Ted Ligety load up a GS ski when he has really long skis and the turns are really tight? He will like slide out the turn and then get it to hitch. It's like what he was famously good at. You can slarv out the turns. You're not completely edging. I mean, in a perfect world, yeah, you are, because that's like the smoothest way to ski, but you absolutely will get into situations where you have to slide out your turns. It just happens, or sometimes it's tactical. Let's say you have a steep pitch and then a flat bottom. People will go hard on the steep part and then they'll kind of have to slide out their turn at the bottom because they're not going to make it all the way. What people will do is they'll slide out their turns on the top on purpose, and then when they get about halfway down, they'll just let it run so they can carry their speed through the flat. If you lose all your speed right before the flat, you're going to be 10 seconds behind everyone else in the field. You absolutely can slide out your turns. This is nonsense. I'm sure he's a nice guy. God, this is why I shouldn't watch these kind of videos. God, okay.
All mountain skis, skis that would really fit into that one ski quiver option, they're trying to do both movements as well as possible. Now, skiers, for the most part, want one pair of skis.
No, they're not trying to do one movement. All mountain skis are basically this kind of sweet spot where they have a little bit of width so that you can carve on the groomers, but then you can also float on the powder if you need to. It's basically like a width thing. But skis have come such a long way that you can still carve on them. It has nothing to do with this or this. You can still slide out the turns, and you can still do this too. You can still have ankle fluctuation. Let me show you. This is an all mountain ski. In fact, this is, I think, the best all mountain ski. It has good flex, but it still has TI in the body so that when I load it, it's gonna give me my energy back. It has this Horizon Tech that makes it wider so it can float when I go off trail. All mountain skis are really beautiful because what they allow you to do is connect parts of the run. So you could go on a groomer for the first half of the run and then take that kind of cat track out to where you want to go on the powder and be able to do both. Now, is it as wide as an atomic bent? No, it's not a 120 width, right? So it's not gonna be able to float as well. It's also heavier because it's got that Titanol because it's allowing me to carve, but I can carve on it and I can enjoy the entire mountain. And most days throughout the year, I can ski on just this because I'm able to carve and load the ski without having to stay on the sidelines when we get into a powder day like I would with a race ski. Also, I like these turns. I know people say these aren't carving skis. You got to try them. They really do carve well. In the West Coast, like specifically Idaho and Utah, you can kind of feather your turn so you don't need it to be kind of on rails as much as East Coast. I get what you guys are saying on the East Coast, but anyway, that's a tangent. This guy is talking total nonsense. This video makes no sense. He still has 3 more runs. Jeez. Okay, let's keep going.
To do it all. Manufacturers, ski brands, they want to sell a lot of skis. So they produce what the market wants, and what the market wants is one ski that can do it all. Basically,
that logic makes no sense. If they could make a one ski quiver, it would be wildly popular. But why would they then if all they're worried about is selling more skis, right? Because if you sell 2 pairs of skis, that's more than 1 pair of skis. Ski manufacturers want to sell skis that people will buy. That's it. You know, I don't love the Nordic Enforcer, but I get that it has a wide variety of people that can ski on it, and that's why it's so popular. Ski manufacturers are more focused on having a niche that they excel in and being able to sell skis to that population. And I'm sure they're kind of watching growing populations. That's why Atomic, who, as far as I can remember back in like the early 2000s, did not have a powder or freestyle ski, and they kind of moved over because they realized what a growing population that was. This logic it's not logicking. Okay, let's keep going. God, I keep interrupting you.
Whatever ski can cover the most use cases and perform the best in all categories is basically the best selling. Now, if you've watched...
No. You know why? Because people will get on a carving ski who want a carving ski. If Atomic only had the Mavericks, people who wanted a carving specific ski would not be happy. It's a great carving ski, but if I was on the East Coast, that doesn't make any sense. People want a ski for a specific job. They want it to be good at that job. And people will shell out for multiple pairs of skis as long as they do a good job at what they're supposed to. Now, they've been able to kind of flex that more and break those boundaries a little bit. You got Vocal Mantras where they can ski really well as a crud cutter, but also carve. You've got Solomon QSTs that have this really ingenious design that allows them to turn well. But a ski that can do the most things is not the best ski. What? Oh my God, okay. Like, how do you think Stokely sells so many skis? They're not the best at flotation, but people like good carving skis, so they, okay. Let's keep going.
Watch any of our other reviews on this channel, you've seen some of those comparisons, and even some skis can fall on a different part of the spectrum. Maybe on paper they're very similar, but this is going to be more hard snow oriented, this is going to be more soft snow oriented, playful, hard charging. Just depends on which skis we're comparing, right? And all of those skis are basically falling in between these two guys here. All mountain skis are in between race and powder. Now, just because you have one pair of skis, let's talk about some of the outliers out there. It doesn't mean that it has to be versatile. It all depends on what your priorities are and when you're going skiing, right? I mean, you might get there for first chair, take 2 runs before anyone shows up, and you're just skiing groomers, right? Well, if that's all you're doing.
Is this guy on the East Coast? That's the only place I can think where first chair I'd be worried about groomers. This might be worse than curated, actually, legitimately. He seems like a nice guy and he's trying to help people out. So I'm going to try to remain positive. But oh Lord, this is very wrong. At least curated, there's like a second guy who's right. This guy's pretty misguided. You know what else too? When I've worked in ski shops and I've had to watch other people selling skis that I just had no idea what they were talking about, this feels like that at a very different level, but very similar.
Then it makes sense to have a ski that's really great for that job. Maybe you only go out when it's powder. Then this makes sense. Maybe you go out every single day and you're not sure what you're going to get. Then it's going to make sense to get something that's going to fall into that all mountain category, the meat of the market. And typically skis like that fall in between 88 millimeters underfoot and 102. Now,
you can't predict that. You can't predict how much powder there's going to be. You can't, if you were somebody, especially in the East Coast, who says, I only come out when there's powder, you're going to ski like 5 days a year. I know people on the East Coast get snippy about that. Okay, you guys get like 10, 15, maybe 20 days. God, no, you don't. You get 10 to 15. Okay, but you get 10 to 15 days. If you're only coming out with powder, you're not going to ski. People who have powder skis, that's never their only ski. I mean, I guess I shouldn't say that. I watched that one guy, Anthony Carvani, whatever, and he has like all over 100 millimeter underfoot, but he's also like traveling mountain to mountain and he's kind of chasing the powder, so I'm not sure he's a good comparison. But most people, if they were being really thoughtful about what skis they should own, they should not just own powder skis. You would want to start probably with all mountain and then have a dedicated pair of powder skis. You could start with carving and then have a dedicated powder skis. You can count on groomed runs and carving. You cannot count on powder. I mean, at that point, you might as well be a surfer. You're relying on the weather. If you're somebody who wants to ski a lot, you have to be comfortable with skiing either old snow or being able to go on the groomers.
Going to have multiple sets of skis, there isn't a limit to how many skis you can have. And I'm not just saying that because I sell skis for a living. Like, you can have as many.
There it is. You sell skis for a living? Okay. God help the people buying skis from this guy. Oh God, I shouldn't be so sassy, but you know what? You clicked on the video. That's on you. I've always been sassy. Of course he sells skis. Okay.
Many as you want. There's no rules. What you're really talking about doing is having more specific tools for the job. Now, whenever that tool gets used outside of conditions where it was designed for, you're really going to feel a fall off in performance.
Okay, some of that is also ability. Like Zach, who was on the channel yesterday, he skis on a Headcore 77. That is not a powder ski. It's not even really an all mountain ski. And he skis that all over the mountain. Some of it is ability. If you are a good skier, you can find a way to make almost anything work. It's how enjoyable it is. For me, skiing on the Maverick 88s, almost anywhere they're gonna feel good. Like on the powder, they're gonna feel fun. On the groomers, they're gonna feel fun. But if I had my 108 Salomon QSTs on a really big powder day, those are gonna be more fun. So it's not so much that the ski is limited on where it can go, it's about what you're gonna get out of the ski, how hard you're gonna have to fight to keep your tips up in the powder, and just how much you're gonna be able to enjoy those conditions. It's not as serious as like a tool or this whatever carpentry metaphor we're going with here.
For instance, if you were using a race ski and ends up being 2 feet of pow, you do not have the best tool for the job. Other end of the spectrum, you have a powder ski, 120 underfoot, and it's boilerplate just after rain. You don't have the best tool for the job. This is where all mountain skis really come into play.
Okay, as someone who grew up with like just very limited resources for skis, I skied powder on a Volcal P60 in a GS ski. And it was really hard in those trees on the East Coast because you're in the glades and you're like fighting and you're almost having to hop jump, but it's still better than nothing. It's still fun. You can make it work and get better. I've done Tuckerman's Ravine, which is very icy when you get into the area where you're climbing it. I was on the left chute on some troublemakers, on Dina-Star troublemakers that were the like early twin tips that were not carving skis, but you make it work and you adapt to it. Having multiple sets of skis isn't about like having to have the perfect ski for the perfect day. It's about having options and being able to fully enjoy those conditions. But you know, even on a powder day, there's still gonna be some groomed runs that you can go on. It's not this life or death.
Meet of the market skis that are really versatile and good for whenever. So if you're gonna have multiple sets of skis and you're truly looking for that, getting a little more performance, you're probably bringing multiple sets to the mountain and you're switching out during the day. Kind of think about it like clubs in your golf bag, right?
What? No, I'm not switching them throughout the day. The conditions are the conditions. I mean, you can, that's fine. Like sometimes I'll think the conditions are gonna be one way and having an extra set in the car might be nice because, oh, I misread it. It wasn't actually a powder day. It turned into rain and it got really hard packed. Or, hey, I thought this was gonna be just a normal groomer day and actually we got some last minute powder. Then you wanna switch skis, but it's not like golf. You need to switch it midday. Some people do sometimes, like if the snow softens up, but it's very seldom that you really need to swap your skis midday. Maybe that's just me, but like conditions throughout the day, unless it's spring skiing, don't tend to change that much. Golf, oh God.
And it's not ideal to use the same club throughout an entire hole. Now, maybe you want to have 2 skis that are really closely related, like a Nordic Enforcer 94 and an Armada Declivity 92. Really similar on paper, but they do feel different. And sometimes just having a different pair of skis, if you're skiing the same resort every day, can make that same resort a lot more exciting. Now, how many pairs of skis you have is completely up to you.
What? It can be kind of different. Like you can set your turns up differently and it can be fun to like I try a lot of different skis. It doesn't make the ski hill feel different. You're just setting up different radius turns. If you're really good at carving and loading your downhill ski, it doesn't change that much. If you ever watch Ski Essentials, like Jeff is a really good skier and he skis really well, but he skis very similarly on different sets of skis. And that's because he's loading up the downhill ski. The timing's different. It's fun to like learn these mechanics. But once you get it down, it doesn't like make the whole mountain feel different. I don't know. That's baloney. This whole thing is baloney, but let's keep going.
Its preference has to do with your priorities. It is more work to carry around a bunch. And you are going to end up probably getting more skis that are more specialized. They're going to be better tools for specific tasks.
Says the ski salesman. Yeah, you're gonna need a lot of these. No, honestly, can I tell you honestly, I don't sell skis. I don't work with anyone that sells skis. Here, I'm gonna be honest with you. If you're on a budget, get one pair of good all mountain skis. Get them like 88 to 95, and that'll cover you for most of the time. Then as you do it more, keep those skis, keep them in good condition. Then get yourself first and foremost, if you're on the West Coast especially, a designated pair of powder skis. If you're on the East Coast, you would do this a little bit differently, but on the West Coast, get yourself a good pair of powder skis that you can enjoy those big powder days on. And then just be ready to have those all mountain skis for about 60% of the days at least. That's the order I would buy skis. Let's keep going.
Once you're using that tool in conditions where it's not designed for, you're going to feel the ski fall off quite a bit more. Where you're not going to feel that as much in those all mountain skis that are built to be one ski quivers. If there are any other questions you have, shoot us a text, give us a call, or book an appointment here in Boston.
Yeah, I have a question. Where do you get off? I mean, this guy seems nice, but that was a bunch of baloney. He didn't understand the basic mechanics of what makes a ski turn in powder or in carving, especially carving. He seemed to have no clue what was going on there. The one ski Quiver is kind of this elusive ski that doesn't exist. You're never gonna have a ski that does everything perfectly. They have come a long ways. You can get skis that do a lot of things really well. So like my Atomic Maverick, I think is the closest thing I've seen to a one ski Quiver. Maybe the Fisher Ranger beats it out. It's pretty diverse and able to go through a lot of different things. I think if I was on the East Coast, maybe the Fisher Ranger would be closer to one ski Quiver. But basically what it's doing is you can only stretch a ski so thin, like it can get in the middle and it can kind of cover most of your days. I could ski on these Mavericks easily 80% of the days. And last year I skied on Vantages all year round. But in the powder, I was definitely sinking more than I would have liked to. And if I was on the East Coast, I'd like something that kind of railed and carved easier. But you can get pretty close, and I would prioritize the first ski you get something that makes sense for what you're using it for. This guy went all the way around, and he seemed to want you to buy 100 different pairs of skis if you could. I would say get a ski that suits your need now, and then have like a dream ski for like, okay, I care about carving now, but eventually I'd like to be in the powder. And then save up for that one. That's the order I would do it. I wouldn't worry about all this nonsense. Oh, you can have a Maverick and a Declivity and a Ranger and a Mantra. What? There's so much carryover there that makes no sense to me. So yeah, this was a bunch of baloney. This was probably worse than Curated. Although Curated has some anomalies, like the skis are good on snow, stuff like that. But overall, I'm gonna give this 2 thumbs down. He had some good insight when he was talking about the difference between one ski and multi-ski, and there are some things he talked about that were okay, but overall, just man, this was rough. That being said, please do not send hate towards this guy or his channel. He seems like a nice person. Get the ski that suits what you're skiing the majority of the time, and then if you have kind of a dream ski, work backwards from that. But you don't need to be getting all these skis. So anyway, that's the end of the video. It was definitely sassier than I was expecting, but that happens sometimes. If you like this kind of content, please consider liking and subscribing. And as always, I'll see you in the next one. See ya.